So I never asked before, but have you guys ever actually won any contests before? Not just related to video games though, just like actual contests.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, not competitions. This is raffles, giveaways.
I won a Sobe shirt that I never got.
No.
That was the first one. Second
Throwback.
one, Lay's potato chips
throwback.
had this thing for Star Wars Episode 1 where they
God.
gave you...
The original release of episode 1. This is back in '99. Okay.
They gave
So
you...
this is before the good prize would have been a bullet to the face. Should have been the prize.
Well, they gave you a little thing to tear off, and
You were
one of
so
them was
hopeful,
like
Nick.
a shit prize, and one of them was a good prize, but you could only tear one.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
and I tore both of them, and I won a backpack out of the good prize thing, and then I super glued the other one shut.
Did it work?
And mailed it in and got a backpack.
Didn't even check
And it
that?
fell apart a month later.
Oh.
that doesn't count.
Just
as
like the
winning.
Star
He's gonna
Wars
have to show
franchise.
it. He still won something.
No, that's
What'd
awesome.
you win?
I don't think I've ever won a contest.
I don't know if I have either.
Does poker count?
No. That's a competition.
I've never won any of that either.
All right, so we're back with part 2 of our discussions on shady video game contests. If you missed it, please check out the first part where we talked about a little bit about Advent Rising and its $1 million race to save humanity campaign, where players were pitted in a game of hide and seek, and as the topic suggests, led to some pretty interesting circumstances.
A lot of rad tunes.
Yeah,
probably,
or in more accurate words, led to pretty much absolutely nothing. But today, however, we're going to discuss another, even funnier example, in my opinion, of a contest gone horribly wrong in the world of games. I'm a significantly, well, maybe not significantly, but I'm a little less drunk, Randall Beatrice, and today I am here with Austin Blakesley. See?
Nailed it.
Is he less drunk?
Less
Is he?
drunk.
It was his name that I screwed up and not yours. And Chris, I had,
Yeah, that doesn't count as screwing up.
This is awful already, but this is Hot Button of storytelling podcast about all things interesting and weird in the massive
The
universe
world of potato chips.
Yeah, and Lay's potato chips and Sobe water. So before we get started, I do want to point out a correction to my own mistake last week.
Oh,
I know. And like I said,
trash.
I had one tall reds too many and tripped over a couple of words. I think I flipped the word hunt and hint at one point when I was talking about the clues online that Majeska was posting. But more importantly, when I was talking about the sharing of codes, I should have stated more specifically that I was referring to the sharing of the location of said codes. Because I looked more into it, and apparently, even though multiple codes were generated, there was still only one location ever that contained the icon that people were looking for. So I apologize. We're all about professionalism, right? So top journalists around this table, I say. So today, do we have any fans of Fable at this table?
Yes.
Anybody play Fable?
Dude,
I
I
like
can't
Fable.
wait to break out my English villager accent today, if that's what we're going to be doing. He's a chicken chaser, he is.
All I know I know you can fart on people in that game.
I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
you
You remember
can.
that? You could go. There were also STDs in it.
Yep.
I remember the STDs.
Do you?
Also, never played Fable.
Have you ever played Populous or Black and White? There's
No,
some, like,
I have played
PC
Fable. Though. I've
games.
played all of them. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also have. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
All right, so one thing that all these games have in common is that they were all creations of Mr. Peter Molyneux. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, you are.
Yes, an English designer and programmer famous within the industry and beyond, actually, for some truly groundbreaking successes, both critical and commercial, as well as some serious, false promises. He kind of developed quite the reputation over the years for issuing some pretty overambitious descriptions of projects during production that by the time that...
Does he have anything to do with Star Citizen?
Oh, man, that might as well be in, the reincarnation of Peter Molyneux, just on a colossal level. Though his stuff is a little less mean-spirited. He just kind of had confidence, he had a bit of an ego.
Yeah, I bet you can't get an STD in Star Citizen.
Not
yet.
Not yet. But yeah, by the time a lot of his games came out, they were still pretty good, to say the least. But they still kind of fell a little bit short of maybe what was initially pitched.
And he also is responsible for a lot. One of the biggest announcements that got everybody excited and then got canceled. You remember the game BC?
Oh wow, that was him?
Lionhead.
I do remember BC.
That wasn't Lionhead. That was Intrepid Development or
BC.
Intrepid
No,
Computer
that is.
Entertainment.
That was the one that was didn't it take place over centuries?
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing?
start out as a caveman and then you You fight
Imagine
dinosaurs and
Spore,
stuff.
but maybe like a little more.
Why?
It was for
Spore
the-
was perfect. Why would you need to change that?
It was for the original
Go ahead, say
Xbox.
something.
No, I don't want to talk about Spore. So basically, he had a lot of promises in his games.
Yeah.
Everything from the family system in the original Fable, like they had this like family and legacy kind of mechanic, and it was your character. And initially, like one of the big things that was promised that your character could marry and have kids.
Yeah.
And then like your character would eventually grow old and die, and then the kids would be playable to keep the ongoing like adventure. None of that was in the game when it came out.
Didn't that Fable 3 or something?
They tried to explore that a little more later,
Yeah.
I think. And then they had a creature AI system in Black and White, which was kind of like a god game. It's similar to Populous, a little more. And it was kind of its own thing, but like that was the player was you're sort of meant to have this kind of relationship with this animal god that would like change and respond depending on how you play.
Huh.
But it wasn't really as in depth as kind of.
Like Real God. I like his parallel.
Yeah.
Great video game.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of Peter Molyneux?
No, where did he
Because
come from?
it helps explain him
All
as
of
a
this?
person.
Okay.
I'm reciting this mostly from memory, but basically, the original Populous was developed because he worked in. It was in Britain, and
Okay.
like somebody he knew told him, "You know, it's a good way to make money. You should sell some beans." So
That
he-
wasn't where I was expecting the
so he
story to
Sell
go.
some beans. What is this fucking 1200?
He formed a company.
Trade him for a cow.
He formed a company that packaged and sold beans, and it was one letter off from a company that made games for the Commodore 64.
Fucking
So
what?
a company who was publishing a game for Commodore 64 sent him a bunch of dev kits instead of the company that was supposed to actually make the game, and he just lied about it and kept them, and then made
What the
Populous.
fuck?
What a smart
Are you
businessman.
serious?
Yeah.
I mean, I know his son was also a gamer, and he used kind of video games as a way of like connecting with his son. There's a lot of really sad interviews where like all he wanted to do was like develop a game that like his son would really enjoy, and if he ever felt like he disappointed his son, he would like consider the game a failure.
Gee, you know, my son, not a big fan of beans, but loves these video game things.
I know, I don't get it either. I've tried everything to speak with the kids.
You should sell beans.
So-
If anybody ever said that to me, I don't know what I'd do.
So Peter was no stranger to controversy and to sometimes undelivering on the video game goods. But no enthusiastic grand gesture of his was more grand than Curiosity: What's Inside the Cube? From Studio 22 Cans, which was a company founded by him after some falling
22
outs.
cans. I wonder if there's any bean connection there.
22 cans of beans. He also like he went on record basically saying like he was pretty frustrated with Microsoft by the end of the while he was working on the Fable stuff. And
Wow, frustrated with Microsoft.
well, he blames them in some ways for which, you know, that's kind of seems a little finger pointy to me, but this game Curiosity, which they had to rename, by the way, to not be confused with the Mars rover, which
Really?
is all right, yeah, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But this company, this was their first game, and it was this mass social experiment. It was this free app on iOS and Android. It came out in late of 2012, around November. And it tasked all those who downloaded it to collaboratively and competitively work together to, it's kind of a strange goal because nobody really knew what it was.
All right.
But the setting of the game, and I'm reading this from Wikipedia because again I have not played it. Austin, did you say you played this?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
I definitely want to know your take on this. But it said it took place in a featureless and minimalist white room. And in the middle of which we looked up a little bit of footage earlier to kind of refresh my memory, it hosted this giant floating cube that was made of billions of smaller cubes, cutely titled cubelets. And while there was this white floating text imprinted on each layer that consists of little messages and phrases from the staff, they had like hashtags and notifications and stuff like that that would be revealed upon tapping the said cubes, causing them to disappear, so that the player could continue to dig deeper and deeper. breaking through each surface of each layer, or breaking through the surface of like each layer to come across the next layer below.
So what do you just click on it?
Essentially, yeah. And yeah, I know. So it seems simple enough, but like not really compelling or enticing, right?
Yeah.
So to keep people doing it, and this is where things get juicy.
Okay.
The objective of this whole thing was basically to keep tapping and tapping and tapping and tapping until you reached the center of the big cube, where one player, the person who reached it first, would be rewarded with a massive mystery grand prize.
Okay, so it was like all collaborative.
Yes,
like
well, kind of. You were working with and also against people, but like, yeah, which creator Peter Molyneux claimed would be, and I quote, and I love this quote, the prize would be life-changingly amazing by any definition. That's what
the prize would be like 3 magic beans.
It could be
that big of a prize.
It could be anything. It could be cash, gold, drugs,
magic
anything.
beans.
Magic beans. It could be what I like. I actually wrote down a joke where I expected it to just be a bust of Peter Molyneux's head himself. Like I thought it would just like.
This guy doesn't seem vain though, like that, is he? Like
He's very self-important.
He's a little
really?
self-indulgent.
Classic. Who would have thought? Englishman, self-important.
But yeah, so this was essentially a tapper a game, which is, or as I call them, fucking time wasters that you're all insane for playing. But this one had a hook.
Yeah, cookie clicker.
This one had the mystery prize.
Ruined the summer of mine.
Cookie Click is awesome.
So wait, Austin, tell me a little bit about playing Curiosity. Like, what was your impression of it when you did
boring as shit.
Okay. How long did you play it for? Would you say?
Like, if you looked at the back of the box,
Maybe like 20
boring
minutes.
as shit, quotes. Austin Blakesley.
It was literally like you said. It was. I got in on it pretty early because I followed the news and they were like, "It's out now," and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I downloaded it, and it was just a white cube on a white background with a bunch of philosophy shit scrolling by the screen.
Man,
it was just like, "Life's what you make it." And I was like, "I hate everything."
Oh my god!
And then you zoom in with a really, really low frame rate. And then you click a bunch of cubes, and then they give you coins, which you can use to buy, like,
yes,
pickaxes.
I do have that in here, yeah.
They give you more cubes per click, and then the servers go offline. and then you delete the app. That's my experience.
And then you delete the app.
Without that, though, you're never going to know what's in the middle.
Oh, no.
So, like you said, that they had other mechanics to kind of shake things up. Like you mentioned those coins, which would. The funny thing is, all the stuff that you could buy with those coins were all temporary, so it had a very sort of like.
Yeah, it was like you got like 2 coins occasionally for breaking a cube, and then like for 300,000 coins, you could buy a pickaxe that would make you tap 3 times the amount of coins for like 5 minutes.
That sounds like a good time to me.
Oh
man,
what a garbage concept.
Yeah, but this one, like I said, like, well, that's the thing. If this would have just been released as a game, nobody would give a fuck.
But there's more.
There's more. So they would keep adding.
There's a proverbial.
There's a
golden castle at the top of this bean crap. I'm tired, dude. It's been a long day.
Yeah, so they would keep adding more and more stuff like this to the game each week to keep things interesting, like more and more like things you could buy the coins for, also like you could like pickaxes that you could destroy more cubes with, and firecrackers that you could put them on and they would blow up entire sections and stuff like that. And each layer of the cube had a very visually distinct look from the previous one with different colors and photos. And when you broke through like a bunch, like it would give you like a clue of what was in the middle, which I couldn't find what a lot of these clues were. But like a lot of I kind of thought the game was aesthetically kind of ugly anyway. But
yeah,
you know,
the graphics were terrible because you need that in order to connect that many people to a phone app.
Yeah, well, and this was in 2012.
Yeah, because everybody's playing at the same time, I'm assuming,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it updates very frequently because if you can't have a thing where you click on a cube at the same time as somebody else, and then...
Jeez. How many people were playing at the same time?
So I'm going to get to that, which is kind of crazy, because so this game came out in November of 2012, and then there was like a version 2, a big 2.0 update that came in December. That had a bunch of features and some statistics and stuff like that to see how like everybody was doing. And this actually kept people tapping, like, and all at the same time, Peter Molyneux is out there spouting off more and more about the game's beauty and purpose, stating, and this is a quote, "There is something we haven't told everybody about when you play the cube. When you play the cube, you're also doing something else. You don't realize you're doing it, but you're not just doing things in the cube. You don't realize it, but you're doing something in something else at the same time," which is some fucking grade A bullshit. Because none of that made sense. I took that quote down and I had to read it verbatim because I don't know what any of that means. And I wasn't alone. So when this game came out, there was a lot of critics and other game developers, I think including Tim Schafer of Double Fine, came out and said that you could be overpromising again, man. Like, why not scale back a little, tone down the enthusiasm? And he just responded with saying, "I don't want to believe less in something. I want to make something that is worthy of the emotion behind it."
This guy seems a bit snake oily salesman. It doesn't it's not like he developed Fable, is right? Like, it wasn't. He didn't come. Was he like the lead designer? Like, what was his?
He
role?
was a designer. Like, he was pretty involved in development of a lot of the games, but like Hideo Kojima, he was and Sid Meier, he was top billed in a way that there's maybe a little self-indulgent.
There were a lot of people to keep him in check.
But yeah. So you mentioned how many people were playing by version 2.0, the game had over 3 million active users.
Jeez.
And people were making programs so that fucking robots could play it.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Because, of course,
it's a tapper.
Like this.
Yeah, so it's incredibly, yeah. So the developers, Austin mentioned, they could not anticipate the amount of such widespread interest of the game. They were not prepared to handle the load. So there was a lot of connectivity issues for a while, which made, here's one thing, it almost worked in their favor because it made that mystery prize, except to Austin, I guess, seem more desirable. And this, I said it before, but this was the developer's first game. And you mentioned that some of these people did you say somebody went on to form Media Molecule?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was from Lionhead, not 22 Cans.
Okay.
When Lion's Head, no.
Big Little
Far
Big
before
Planet
Lion's Head
fan
got
right
shut
here.
down and Peter Molyneux left, a couple people left and formed Media Molecule.
Okay. I knew that it wasn't always the best terms where he would kind of shift his focus on after he didn't leave on his best terms of working with some teams, but his game still for the most part did pretty well. At least this one, for instance, was, people were talking about it. But it's funny, what we learned from previous episodes is that maybe the first thing that you begin to work on when you start a new company shouldn't be so epically huge that it could pretty much fucking break everything. It's just which is maybe not the best way to
It's she's giant, too big for his britches. Stalk.
So we're gonna rewind a bit just so people have a good time frame from the launch of this thing to the end of the story. Okay. I want to give people a good frame, a good framing of where we kind of are. November 6, 2012 is when this game launches.
End of the world, right around the corner.
It comes out on iOS first, which, according to the developers, was actually a day early than the initial November 7th release date, and they didn't know that the game was live until it was out. So, good start. I think the Android version came out a few hours later, and months of tapping go by. And meanwhile, they're being pretty cheeky with their campaign about what they're offering. And this is where it's going to get great. So in the early afternoon of May 26th, 2013, this is 6 months about and later, and 25 billion cubelets later.
Jeez.
I think at their peak they had almost 4 million people playing. The very last layer was removed, and here is what was inside. I'm gonna play a clip. So it's kind of a bizarre sort of exchange. And I'll get into who basically dug to the middle first. But at the center of the cube was an email address, and when the email address was responded to, it linked back with a video.
Okay.
And it's this it's like a 5 or 6 minute video, 4, 5, 6 minutes of Peter Molyneux basically imprinted on this green screen, just talking.
Yeah.
about what the prize is, and I'm
Okay.
going to play basically.
You don't have to hold it to just just so we can.
But here we go though. This is good. This is good.
And so, what is in the center is something that only we can grant. And it is the ability to be a digital god. We are making a game called Goddess. The whole game is about being a god to your followers. You, the person who reached the center, will be the god of all people that are playing Goddess. You will intrinsically decide on the rules that the game is played by. And, here's the life-changing bit, you will share in the success of the product. Every time people spend money on Goddess, you will get a small piece of that pie.
Holy shit!
It's so brilliant. I do also when we were watching that video earlier, Chelsea was quick to point out that he fumbles over the takes like multiple times, and they just went with it. Like that was like the best
As
they did.
Knock a mic stand over.
Yeah.
No, so wait, the whole point, you can win the ability to develop his next game.
You were basically in charge
Also-
of the entire like online ecosystem. And this was given to that was
to
promised-
who knows?
To who knows?
The kind of people that play clicker games for millions of hours
I will
shouldn't have
say-
the power to control other games.
I will say the kid, and I'm going to talk about the kid who won. I love this kid. This is great. So basically, you heard all that right. They said that basically the opening of the video states that the experiment is over and was a success, and that the contents inside the cube included the prize to be coined the sole, all-powerful digital god within the studio's upcoming
This is
release of
once
another
again,
video game.
Much like real religion, you just keep peeling away layers and layers and layers until you're disappointed. Like right at the end.
The funny thing is the game that, and he doesn't actually mention this in the video, of course, but the game Goddess that he talks about is a crowdfunded game, and it's the spiritual successor to Populous, essentially.
Okay.
But he did say this was on top of also being able to reap a small portion, and we'll get into that later, of the incoming revenue expected to be brought in by the multiplayer portion of the game itself. So who was graced with this privilege? Well, our lucky winner for the story today was an Edinburgh resident. His name was Brian Henderson. Brian with a Y.
Where's Edinburgh?
Scotland.
Scotland, yes.
Okay.
Which I guess worked probably in Peter's favor since he's from England. So
Yeah, it wasn't that far to
wasn't
fly
that
him out
fun?
or anything.
Yeah. So so Brian was an 18-year-old musician and 3D design artist who we also have to thank for even having the pleasure of being able to see that video to begin with, because in the attached email that he messaged, they said that he could either keep the contents of the cube to himself so that no one would ever know what they were digging for the whole time, or make it public. So there was a tweet posted the day of announcing that there was a winner, but it didn't say it was him.
Yeah.
So the actual reveal of what the prize was didn't come out until he opted to make it known that same day. At that point, his identity was revealed with that clip that we just watched getting shared on YouTube.
Why would...
That's still up for all of us
How
to
would
see.
they even give the option to keep it secret? That's so fucking
It is.
dirty.
I also love that clip is still up there, which is kind of bizarre in itself. You'd think after where the story goes that they would have fucking scrubbed that shit PT style. But obviously, I'm using the term funny pretty loosely because from the start, nothing here really clicked for anybody involved. There's a great interview in Eurogamer where Brian said that he never actually heard of Peter Molyneux.
The guy who made the game
Yeah.
won?
Yeah. He didn't, I assume that video came up. He didn't really know who the dude was at all.
God, I wish I could do a Scottish accent. So I got so many things to say.
And this was the funny thing is the kid who won, Brian. He was only really casually into games. He never really fancied himself a fanatic of any kind.
Yeah, he's fucking played some clicker game.
Yeah,
he probably signed up like a month before it was over.
So here's
or like a day before.
Here's
it
the
was
crazy
over,
thing, and he was getting attacked for interviews left and right. Obviously, like after this came out, like Wired, Game Informer, BBC Radio, like everybody was desperately trying to contact him.
Yeah,
and he had a Twitter before that for like his own like artwork and stuff like that, and his Twitter just blew up with like thousands of new followers, and everybody was like requesting to DM him because people really love Fable and Populous and that stuff. Like people actually wanted that prize. Other people were just like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing: is the only reason he downloaded Curiosity to begin with was because he was a fan and follower of the Yogscast. It's a popular gaming YouTube channel in which there was an episode where Peter Molyneux himself was demoing the game with the crew, and he was just like a follower of that channel. So like he tuned in to watch that video and then downloaded the game, and he only played the game for an hour before he won.
Oh, so fucking perfect.
So there were
exactly.
There were other kids playing this shit for probably fucking months.
What a waste of time.
Think about the guy who built the robot. Like it's amazing. So honestly, this kid was kind of more bewildered and confused than anything, than excited. And he was
what's going on?
Because like if you have no context for what the fuck you're doing, imagine seeing that video.
Yeah,
he just
he
like
has no
dude in a
clue.
suit in a white room, just being like. Trying to recruit him last Guardian or last Starfighter.
The last Starfighter stuff. What the fuck? Yeah. The only way this would be better is if some like old English woman whose like nephew just taught her how to use a phone, like accidentally downloaded the app.
I would have laughed so hard if my mom downloaded this app and then was like tapping, and then it was just
somebody sent me a video, and then she just lets it go, and nobody ever knows what the fuck
that was the funny thing.
happened.
It was like, what do you think? What do you think if somebody won and then never contacted them? Like,
That's so great.
Like never actually like
released it or
sent
anything.
anything to the email. Yeah, and then like millions of other people who were playing the game just have no answer at all.
Yes,
So,
that's
like,
so horrible. If that shouldn't be like a sign of what, like,
it's almost like it's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So he shared a couple texts back and forth with Peter, and it was funny because he was congratulated, but he didn't even really know what Goddess was. Not a lot of people did, but like the only thing like he was looking to like he was hoping he could appear on the Yogscast channel. Like that was like because that's why he played the game was because he saw it on there. So he was just hoping he could like hang out with YouTubers. Like like he wasn't he didn't. I don't think he was looking to basically run a online game. But Peter kept responding, and he said, "If Goddess is successful, then you're going to have an amazing year." So still talking this thing up quite a bit. So I don't know. What do you guys know about Goddess itself?
Nothing. This is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
Well, not today. But
I know a lot about Goddess, but I'm going to let you get to that.
Okay, did you play?
I'm assuming you have. No, I'm not going to pay $15 for a fucking game.
I'm not either. So, I don't have any huge in-depth descriptions of Goddess. Apparently, it's
a god game.
It is a god game.
Yeah.
It's meant to be this.
So what's this mean? Like
sequel to Populous.
What's a god game?
It's top down. You're looking down on a bunch of little guys walking around like an RTS.
Yeah.
And then you just like make decisions. You're like they build up a civilization, and you're like I'm gonna flood that because fuck you. You play God. You play God.
Bit, yeah.
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 All right.
I mean,
I get it, but I don't.
I mean, imagine SimCity where you're a mayor. Just escalate that by a few levels.
Gotcha.
So, because SimCity,
arguably, mayors have more power than God.
I would agree. The funny thing about SimCity,
you heard it first.
Like SimCity, like you can, and I'm a big SimCity fan, but I never really played many God games. But they give you all these tools to build the city, and then they give you just as many tools to destroy it. And really, to what end? So, I guess God games are it feels good, right? I guess. But this game Goddess,
unless there's a God game where I can make a small, scrawny, handsome, but not handsome enough kid from Baltimore grow up and have a horrible life where everybody shits on him at every turn. No, I'm just kidding.
And then you take it out on everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I give him an AR-15.
Apparently the player starts out by saving a man and a woman from drowning, and then that player, whoever they choose to save, I guess, or no, I guess it's you save both of them.
If this were a real God game, you could choose to save nobody and turn it off.
When you save them both, they lead you to the promised land.
They lead God to the
where they
promised
settle down
land.
and build a tent, and then you basically breed them, and then more people get included, and you explore this big world, and then the population grows. And
Well, you didn't tell me you could watch
You're supposed
people
to be
have
able to,
sex.
like, mess
Now
with
this
my-
game's a little bit more interesting.
it's not Leisure Suit Larry though. I am sorry. And then
So
there's
you're
like
saying like this is the Leisure Suit Larry of God games?
they have like a belief system basically on like how much. Like remember that episode of Futurama where Bender's floating through space?
That's
and
probably
being a
one of
god?
my favorite episodes.
So it's like it's essentially that where it's like you're basically choosing how much you want to participate
Yeah.
to like of how much that would like affect and you had worship levels and blah blah blah. Not really my type of game, but like there was a lot of people asking for that, and the market wasn't exactly crowded with those. So there was a lot of people that grew up playing Populous and Black and White in the 90s and early 2000s, and there was some reverence for this stuff essentially. But this game was kickstarted around the same time that as Curiosity like kind of started to go live, and in the Kickstarter page they said it would take about 7 to 9 months to complete the game.
what?
Which and the game it was asking for £450,000. I don't know what that translates to in cash.
Probably like
About
500,000. I was
700,000.
gonna say 500-700.
Yeah.
something like that.
I don't know if what the American dollar was in 2012 either, if that changes. But this game reached its goal. It funded £526,563, and made every stretch goal except for its last one, which was for an Ouya port. So they lucked out by not getting that. I do want to do an episode in the Ouya one day. That would,
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that.
that'll be a fun one. So here's the thing: is only about a week or so after winning the contest, 22 Cans arranged a conference call with this kid, with Brian. During the phone call, he was invited over to the studio, and they paid for his flights and taxis, and they even allowed him to bring a friend along.
Yeah.
And after a couple of awkward exchanges between Brian and Mr. Peter Molyneux, they brought him into the studio for him and his buddy to see Goddess. And this is why I love this kid so much, because this interview is fantastic because he is so to the point, and he's like, I don't know, like he clearly wears his emotions on his sleeves and just says like things, but like but he also is like very sincere and earnest
So
about
he's
it.
Scottish.
Is that the Scott? I don't know. He didn't use the word cunt that much.
That's
so-
more an Aussie thing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
First of all, you're a white American. You can't say cunt all willy-nilly.
You can bleep that, but no. So it's funny is so here's the funny thing is they showed him and his buddy the game, and he was not that impressed.
Yeah. It's a game.
Yeah. So according to sources close to 22, the game was very early in development and very rough. And this kid, not being a huge gamer, seeing games super early, like seeing any game that early in any stage, like in that stage of development, wouldn't really be that impressive. So if
Yeah.
you have all these like placeholder assets and shit, like it's like
Yeah, especially somebody apparently who's a casual gamer. Like, what's he give a shit? Like,
yeah. So
it's whatever to me.
I don't know
Now you
how
said you used to have a
functional
bean
the
company.
game
Now
was.
that's more on my alley. You got any stew laying
they
around? or-
apparently, and this is quoted, they made him play for 3 hours, and he said that it was their choice to get up and stop playing at any time, but he didn't want to be rude. He
Wow.
went, and then he went on to
Basically,
say,
that means he sat down and started playing. Hey, it's crap.
well, here's the
Get
funny
up
thing
and turn around
is,
and
when
leave.
when Peter asked him what he thought of the game, Brian said that it wasn't really his kind of game. He said that it was interesting, but he thought it was pretty tedious, and he said that like he was kind of already bored by that first session. A lot of the games he played were on console. He wasn't looking to play any game that demanded daily rituals at a computer, which I can fucking relate to, because
Yeah.
it was like essentially this game was kind of like it's meant to be kind of like this never-ending, ongoing simulation.
Yeah.
And it's like this, not really what he was looking for, I guess.
I wish I could have saw this Peter guy's face when he said all this to him. Like, where he's just like, not that into it.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm really big into tappers. That's why. Yeah.
he's not even big into tappers.
No,
he
he's
played it
not
for
at
a
all.
fucking hour.
Yeah.
You said.
That's why it's so funny that he won the prize, because like imagine if they found some Fable fan who was just fawning over it.
Yeah.
Like, but needless to say, him and his buddy stayed pretty polite.
Yeah.
And they brought them in to talk contracts, where he was promised 1% of the revenue from Goddess for his role as the God of Gods, is what they called it, which was a part of an online social hub feature that wasn't even developed yet.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the build that he played. Fine Print also stated that the studio was under pretty much no time pressure to fulfill any of its obligations at all, and that, basically, like, they were protecting themselves from what was to come.
The way it sounds, it's a kind of a good thing this guy won. Like
It is.
Like,
That's why, because he basically...
What if it were an actual fan who had won?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
but
it's great.
anyway,
And they took him and his buddy out for drinks afterwards, except Peter Molyneux was not there. He had a plane to catch. So
Well,
he apparently
that
left.
story is super interesting. I remember that.
When they got drinks? Or
Yeah, because like it was supposed to be like I think it was organized by Peter Molyneux, and like the people at the studio didn't really want to do it.
didn't want to go out.
Yeah.
No, because their computers.
So
nerds.
I think they treated it like a work gathering, and this kid and his friend were kind of just sitting in the corner, and nobody was talking to them. And then at one point, one of the guys from the studio brought them over a couple shots and started talking to them to fill time until Peter Molyneux got there, which I don't think he ever did. I think he...
they were just waiting.
He showed up and then like was like, I have a plane to catch, and then like immediately left for the airport or something.
Fuck. It's so strange, dude. It's
Well,
just so
like the story
strange.
that comes out of this is fantastic, and like in this interview, he tells it all because he doesn't fucking care.
Yeah,
like
what's it matter?
it's like what's the matter at this point, especially like. So what's funny is though him and his buddy did not leave empty-handed. They gave him a signed poster and a T-shirt, which I assumed read Sobe Water on it. I don't know what the T-shirt said.
That's where my shirt went.
But it all went downhill pretty much immediately after that.
Like the day after.
Oh
that.
Yeah.
That's when it went down.
Well, it was like
That was the peak.
that was the peak. So what's funny is it apparently did not take them long to just stop communicating. Like emails started to dry up about a month or two, even less than that after that visit. Like Brian would keep messaging them, basically just being like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like he just kind of wanted to touch back in regularly. And eventually he just got frustrated and stopped. It was like none of his emails were getting answered. And like so much time was going by. And they were not even keeping him updated on the game in like a way that was like distant. Like they weren't even like, So what's funny is 4 months later, and he's not hearing jack shit.
Yeah.
Goddess launches an early access game on Steam. This is in September of 2013.
Okay.
And out of the gate, it gets some pretty disappointing reviews. I think it's like a 60 on Metacritic. And more importantly, though, none of the multiplayer features that were initially promised to both Brian and the fans were in the game when it came out.
So what was the game?
I mean, essentially, I guess it
so
was
it
just
was
a
just-
single player component of the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but I assume it was in line to something like Populous, just not as involved in the same way that,
So.
Yeah. So so the funny thing is, in May of 2014, they made a portable version. An app launched on the iOS store as a freemium game, with the same essential It was essentially the same game, but
If at first you don't succeed,
essential. I don't
try
know what
phones.
the hell I'm talking about.
That seems to be
Yeah,
the gaming
why it felt so.
mantra.
At this point, the developers published. They put out a roadmap of. Remember when Destiny did that?
I still.
Okay, so was
I
that
mean, a lot of people do that.
a lot of people
I
do
always
that. I don't
remember.
know. I guess you're right, but it just seems there's never really go in the same way that they say they do.
Well, game
Yeah, they
development's
put out a
hard.
roadmap. They said
It
they were
totally
supposed to
is.
release
That's
Destiny 2, which was supposed to be a video game, and they did not deliver on that.
I paid $60 for this expansion pack, and my save won't transfer over. I don't know. People say that about Call of Duty,
I hate
but
Destiny 2.
no, you don't. You'll be back. As soon as the Taken King version of that comes out.
The Forsaken.
September
Forsaken.
4th. I already have it.
Yeah.
I'll be playing it.
So at this point, they put out this roadmap saying that the hub world feature of the game was still in the works and that it was coming.
Okay.
Here's the thing, though. They were trying to extinguish fires because at the same time that they put this fucking roadmap out, they were trying to squash some pretty reliable leaks within the company.
Yeah, at the same time, real God was throwing a wrench into their gears.
Stating that all of these features were actually like in limbo due to some serious technical and financial hurdles that they were struggling to overcome at the time.
Basically, mainly only $500,000 and a 6-month deadline to create your game.
And obviously without this hub world, there would be no God of Gods. And there would be no revenue for our buddy Brian. Which... at this point, like, all he wanted to know was what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because, like, he wasn't trying to, like, really be a part. He just wanted to know, like, what his role sort of was. Like, if they would have actually given him the responsibility, he probably would have tried.
Yeah, exactly. Even if uninterested, he still won. You know, he seems like a nice enough person.
He finally got a response, and when he did, they said they couldn't tell him when the hub will be added, but that... like when it would be done when it was done. Yeah. Essentially. And more time went by with no news. And eventually he just said, fuck it. Like eventually he got interviewed and he was just like, this is unprofessional and he basically wasn't taking shit. Like he basically like the last email he received was from their financial chief, Peter Murphy, claiming that somebody else would be getting in touch with him soon, and then they never did. And he kind of forgot. Like this kid went on to live his life. Like
that's what I'm saying.
He wasn't hung up on it.
Thankfully, it's him.
Yeah, and not a super fan.
If it were a super fan, like what that would have done to that
exactly.
person.
So like fucking this kid's like, yeah, whatever, and then just like went on living his life. Like he didn't really like more people in like auxiliary to him probably cared more than he did.
Yeah.
He was saying it was what it was. And and it was funny because people started to feel bad for him, but he said that he was just like he said that he didn't really care. Their reputation of a company as a company was what was going to be destroyed, not his.
Yeah.
So he was just like, yeah,
he's not losing anything.
No,
he doesn't stand to lose anything
if anything,
at all.
he just kind of like watched the building burn, like you know, like but. He actually said, and I like this quote. He said he would have felt way worse if it was somebody else getting screwed.
Yeah,
like if it was
so
a true fan.
Yeah.
Like he's like I would have felt bad if it was that person because he was a realist. Like he tempered his expectations from the start.
Yeah, exactly.
To not be disappointed.
He thought like a nice guy.
Yeah,
I thought that too.
Totally. Like
so you listen to that, Mom. I'm a nice guy.
He wanted the prize, but like he wasn't too upset about like not getting it at that point. And this interview was 18 months later. So he was 18 when he won the contest. He was 21 around the time that this interview came out. And when this interview came out, he had yet to receive a single penny, let alone any of the riches that Molyneux promised. And at this point, he kind of already accepted that he probably never would be. Like he never even got an apology at the time, which is kind of all like he said, like you know, like, that he wanted. But all the communication between the two were pretty much dried up. Or at least it was, until the person who arranged this interview in Eurogamer with Brian also attempted to get a hold of Peter for a statement. And that's when the sorries kind of started to come out. Not when the kid tried to get a hold of them, when somebody who was putting together an article.
Yeah.
And Peter Molyneux did say, he said, I totally and absolutely and categorically apologize. That isn't good enough, and I'll take it on my own shoulders that I should have made sure that he was communicated with. We will from today onwards do that. Guess what they didn't do? Any of that.
Didn't they fire the guy who was in charge of communicating with him?
I know a lot of people were let go.
Yeah, and one of them was the person who was in charge of communicating with him, and then they just never filled that position because person
Nobody
that
took over
communicates
that
with
guy.
A contest winner is not an essential role in game development.
Yeah, surprise.
Yeah, so because he went on in that same interview with Eurogamer to say that 22 Cans was actually in pretty bad shape.
Hold on, I gotta update my LinkedIn.
And that mobile
I'm looking
versions,
for a company willing to hire a person who communicates with contest winner.
It's a good job. It's a pretty good gig. Everybody else is programming, building assets all day, and you have that one guy who's like asleep at the phone. You know? He just has one post-it note in his cubicle that says what he should be doing.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, my internet wasn't connected, and then he plugs in the LAN cable, and he just gets 14 emails from this kid. January, what's going on? February, hey, what's going on?
Hey, just got your email.
It's been so busy around here. So what's funny is apparently the mobile version of Goddess was pulling in just enough money to keep the company afloat. But he wasn't. He still was claiming that Goddess was one day going to expand its development team again. They were going to get new hires. They were going to deliver on all those promised features, including the hub world. So,
Yeah.
a lot of confidence in this guy still at this point. Like the ship is literally sinking, and he's just like, nah. It's he admitted a lot of it. It's just that he also more or less was basically still staying hopeful.
Well, you have to.
And yeah, I guess you have to. Like there was a lot of things kind of going wrong apparently with this game. Molyneux said that Goddess's publisher forced a server switch on them in November of 2014.
Okay.
Which forced 22 Cans to build new tech in order to for people to keep playing the game, which set that development roadmap that they put out by 6 months.
Yeah.
And they said that this is and he was weirdly open about stuff like that. So he basically would come out and be like, we have mechanics for this stuff, but not for this stuff yet. So they'd had everybody focusing on the combat, but then you didn't have anybody basically working on the multiplayer, and I think they were kind of relying on the revenue to sort of build this into the thing that they initially promised that it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But then he eventually came out and said that he couldn't even guarantee that multiplayer in the game would ever get added. And then this is a great quote he had. Guaranteeing is a very strong word, he says. There are so many new technologies that we are trying to implement. If it all goes well, absolutely it should happen. I want it to happen. I think we need it to happen. With all the press that went on with Brian, why shouldn't we make it happen? Which is they.
So wait, now he's calling up.
He's calling out this poor kid. He's just like, shit, if we didn't put this fucking contest together with this stupid cell phone game, we could just say the game's done. But now we gotta add this multiplayer element.
And thanks to this dickhead who finished the game over here.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't mean it like that, but still, why bring attention to the kid?
Yeah, well, that's what I think is
whether
funny.
he was trying to positively or negatively, it does not work in
It
his
was
favor.
basically like a make good at the end. It was just they didn't even sound like, he didn't even sound like he really cared about building this game anymore. He was just basically I came out there and said a lot of shit. I guess I gotta, I don't know.
I got a new idea. If you are still interested in Goddess and you make it to the end of Goddess, you can become a developer in Goddess, the new game I have coming out.
Okay, so I love that you make that joke before I tell you this, because you're not that far off.
God, no, really?
No, there was no contest. However, all right. So first of all, before we get into that, we're gonna basically talk about where Goddess is today, and I looked this up. Goddess is still on Steam Early Access. It's on sale right now for $14.99, still packaged with another thing, which we'll get to in a minute. And this is what's so good. So as of today, there are about 5,300 reviews on Steam for this game, with the response rating is very negative.
Yeah.
The last update for the game was in December of 2014, with no hub world ever getting added. And to top it off, in February of 2015, 22 Cans switched focus to make an entirely new game called The Trial, which I don't know much about this game. But the development team pretty much acknowledged they could no longer deliver what was originally promised with Goddess.
So they just gave up.
And Peter Molyneux just abandoned the game to go work on this other one.
Wow.
Excuse me. Yeah. So basically, this.
Correction, it's The Trail, not The Trial.
The Trail.
Oh shit. Okay, you are right. The Trail. So what's funny is he kind of almost sort of destroyed his career in the process, because he soured a lot of people on he's got quite the legacy, and he soured a lot of people on the ability to make to follow through on promises.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, in that video I pulled up earlier, he actually makes a joke. He's just like, I know I can be a little, but this is real, and then he fucked it up again. So So it's funny. It's like and I don't, as of now, I don't think he's ever really made a real comeback or return in any like real meaningful way. Because here's what gets really weird. So February of 2015, they announced they're working on this new game, The Trail, and then a year later, in February of 2016, 2 years ago, 22can, still around, releases another game out of nowhere titled Goddess Wars, a smaller combat-focused RTS version, completely separated from Goddess itself, which is what now it gets packaged with on Steam. Yeah, which the contract for the lead developer on the original Goddess, I think his name was Konrad Nazinski, expired in June of 2016.
Okay.
It was reported that there was nobody left working on the PC version of the game at this time, while the freemium mobile version still trucking along with tiny little updates for revenue. Which is crazy to me that you can that Steam still has that game listed and that you can still buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just another fucking.
Goddess had a mobile version, you said, right?
Yes.
So wait, I wonder if that kid gets any of the revenue from that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably
because
not.
I don't think it includes that mode, but
Yeah.
he should, considering there's apparently a fucking drip of just enough to keep this company alive that he, I'm
Yeah.
sure, seeing out. But they need every penny they can.
Yeah,
they don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
fucking
He'd be
Brian
like-
even
yeah, he
making
probably
that
wouldn't even
1%
take
of
it.
it.
Yeah, he probably.
So
wouldn't even
this
take
is just another mark on the trail of tears for Kickstarter games because not the best track record for Kickstarter games.
Jeez.
Yeah, but so as for Brian, Brian's life hasn't really been affected so much of the touch of Molyneux and his grandiose.
Yeah.
This is
He's off having a pint and some haggis.
some haggis.
With Scott
Playing his bagpipes.
playing his bagpipes.
The only difference is that I've got more Twitter followers, he says, and even then, it is still gradually declined since. He says none of them talk to me or retweet me. So honestly, I guess there's no difference anymore. Friends of his will apparently they introduce him as the god of gods at parties and stuff like that. So that
That's what's up.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
that's pretty dope. So that maybe people will think he's cool, and that's his words, not mine, because I already think this dude rules.
I mean, maybe because it's funny. I don't know about because it'll make you cool.
No, I know. I mean, yeah, I guess. And so apparently, a buddy of his even at one time tried to hook him up with a girl with that title, trying to say who he was, and he said that it didn't work.
Yeah, no shit. She's probably never. Yeah, picture a girl who's never played video games. Hey, this is my buddy, the god of gods.
Well, here's one thing.
Oh, what?
Apparently,
yeah.
she
Well,
was
actually, this guy Peter Molyneux, what is Molyneux?
Molyneux.
Yeah, he makes video games like this game and this game, and he had a contest of another video game where you click it and she just walks away.
No, here's the funny thing is, according to him, she was a game developer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it still didn't work. And this is I like this is kind of oddly poetic here. He still has the app on his phone, despite the fact that obviously it doesn't work if you launch it. But he keeps it there as a reminder to himself that of something interesting that once happened to him in the past. A memory that is now fading. In the final words of the interview that he had with him, and I love this. I'm going to read this verbatim. And this is from Brian. He says, obviously I know what's happened, but it's like, did that really happen or was it like a dream? And then there's a long pause and he says, I don't care really, whatever.
Jeez, that's perfect.
It's really great.
I don't care really.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So yeah,
I'm surprised you
this
can read
interview
that.
was over pints.
Have you ever
and a
seen
burger.
Scottish Twitter? It's a fucking nightmare, dude. You can't read any of that shit.
Here's the thing, though, and I actually didn't know this until Austin told me, but we are gonna leave this with a little bit of an optimistic note.
All right.
So you showed me the game Ollie Ollie at one point.
Yes.
And that is who's the developer of that game?
Roll 7.
Roll 7. Okay.
It's a 2D skateboarding game.
Nice.
pretty
So it's like
dope,
a side-scrolling Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Was that initially just on PSP and then it kind of went out?
Vita.
Okay.
And then it went to PC and PS4 and stuff like that.
Yeah. And they went on to develop a game called Not a Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Not a Hero is is that a
2D side-scrolling shooter, cover shooter. It's weird, but it's
Okay.
fun.
okay?
Yeah. Well, what does this have to do with anything?
They apparently included him as a playable character in that game.
No shit. That's pretty
kind
cool.
of giving him the thing that Peter Molyneux never did.
Instead of introducing yourself as the god of gods to uninterested women, you could just say like, "I'm in this game."
So here's the funny thing, though, and it's just like they actually went all out for this kid. They made him as a playable character in this game, but then they also promised him 1% of all of Ali Ali's sales. Like they didn't, they didn't need to do that. Like they reached out to him after this interview went out.
Although I think Devolver, who published Ali Ali and Not a Hero, is the one that gave him the share of the profits, not Roll7.
I love Devolver.
But
Nice.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's great.
Which is such a Devolver move.
That is a Devolver move.
To give somebody else the profits of your game based on some other story.
Some like joke story.
Yeah.
Apparently,
It's
according to him,
definitely-
they said the studio is sympathetic and immediately said they do it, no hesitation. I was like, that's so good. So at least that's kind of like a little bit of a sweet ending there, rather than just him. Sort of,
fading into obscurity.
he was ready
dying
to
like the rest of us.
But I don't know if you guys have any other questions, comments, anything like that. But I think
Goddess is stupid. That's my comment.
Side scroller, Tony Hawk. I forgot what we were talking about.
it's more important.
Ali
than
Ali
Goddess.
is awesome.
Oh,
Better
yeah.
than Goddess.
Ali
Better
Ali.
than Goddess.
and better than Curiosity. What's inside the cube?
Yeah, you can't do kickflips to the Curiosity.
But that concludes part 2 of Shady Video Game Contest. Stay tuned next week for part 3. We're going to talk about Just Cause and its famous tropical island giveaway. That's going to be a good one. And I know I probably mentioned before that this was going to be 2 parts, but it's 3 now. So it's our show. Fuck off. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But thank you for the support also. And
Yeah,
if you
so the
wanna-
moral at the top of the beanstalk is don't accidentally get developer kits.
You never made a joke about pouring sobe water in those magic beans.
Because it wouldn't work, okay? Magic beans are already magic. If you put more magic on top, it cancels it out.
Do you think
Read
that,
a magic book.
do you think that Peter Molyneux could grow a good game out of it?
I think he should have stuck with beans. It sounded like it was pretty successful.
Here's the funny thing.
Arguably more money and less stress.
I do believe that there is a not yet announced but hinted at Fable 4 in the works, made by.
I was really hoping you were going to say like
Turn
a
10.
godlike bean game.
You want to plug our
Yeah,
Twitter
yeah,
handles?
yeah. All right, follow us on Twitter if you want at HotButtonCast, and you can follow Randy at
Restart
Randy.
Thanks
Whew,
for
got
the-
through that one.
yeah, the correction.
Austin Blakesley, and I'm Chris I something. And if you like all this shit, you can.
We
go
apologize. There was no Fortnite reference in this episode.
Yeah,
fucked up,
you're
Austin.
right. You're right.
There's cubes in Fortnite.
That's
There you go.
that's Minecraft. But you can build in Minecraft, and you can also build in Fortnite.
There you go. We did it.
Yep.
All right, yeah. If you like other
Sign off.
stuff, look at the other stuff on Radio Antics, like Live Quest and Garbage Dump and whatever else. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.